Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2011 movie titled Seeking Justice. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, a Brighton businessman is being secretly recorded as he leaks sensitive information about a dangerous vigilante group. After his meeting, he makes his way to his car, only to have a Jeep unexpectedly hit him. He tries to get away, but the Jeep pushes his car off the parking garage. Next, we meet Will Gerard, an English teacher, who is enjoying a romantic anniversary date with his wife, Laura Gerard, a musician. While celebrating, they see a news report about the businessman's death. Although the city is becoming more chaotic, they remain happy, ending their night dancing with Will's best friend, Jimmy, the school principal, and his wife. Later that night, after spending time together, Will gives Laura a necklace as a sign of their lasting love. The following day, after work, Will and Jimmy have their usual chess game. Meanwhile, Laura has finished her orchestra practice when a man suddenly appears, pulls out a gun, and assaults her. Despite her efforts to fight back, he violently attacks her in the backseat of her car. After saying goodbye to Jimmy, Will receives a worrying message on his phone and rushes to a nearby hospital. He is devastated to find Laura badly injured and barely conscious. Outside, Jimmy and another friend, Trudy, come to support him. Jimmy believes the police will catch the attacker and offers to help Will in any way he can. While waiting alone, a man in a suit approaches Will and expresses his sympathy for Laura. He introduces himself as Simon and says he has gone through a similar experience. Simon reveals that he knows Laura's attacker, Hodge, a well-known criminal who has escaped justice many times. Simon offers to deal with Hodge for Will, promising to spare Laura a long and painful trial. He explains that he is part of a group that targets criminals who avoid the law and shows interest in Will's case. In return, they may ask Will for a small favor in the future. Though hesitant at first, Will, driven by a desire for revenge for Laura, agrees. They instruct him to purchase 2 chocolate bars from the vending machines to validate his choice. He purchases the 2 chocolate bars in the presence of a few unidentified individuals, unsure of their identities. That night, Hodge returns to his apartment, feeling proud as he looks at his new prize, Laura's necklace. A scared man wearing gloves suddenly bursts into the apartment, interrupting his satisfaction. Despite Hodge's attempts to fight back, the intruder, armed with a gun, overpowers him and kills him. The next day, a deliveryman, claiming to be from an insurance company, gives Will a package. Will is shocked to find a photo of Hodge's dead body and Laura's necklace inside. He shares the news of the attacker's death with Laura, who cries with relief. They return home, with Laura's face still marked by the assault. Will promises to stay by her side, and Laura, feeling sorry, insists on getting new locks and bars for their windows. 6 months later, Will and Laura are still struggling with the aftermath of the traumatic event. Laura wants to buy a gun, but Will is against having one in their home. Undeterred, Laura starts taking shooting lessons at a local range and purchases pepper spray. While they are at a nearby bar, Will gets a call from Simon, asking to meet. Simon instructs him to go to a store, buy a pack of gum, and exit through the back door, where Simon is waiting in a car. Reluctantly, Will gets into the car, and Simon gives him an envelope, telling him to drop it in a mailbox at exactly 4:15. The next day, Will goes to the zoo but receives a call telling him to open the envelope before mailing it. Inside, he finds a photo of a man with his family and a phone number. Simon gives Will instructions to observe the man and report back with the phrase, "The hungry white rabbit jumps." Will sees the man's wife and children and starts following them around the zoo. But he can't find the man. The next day, Will is shocked to see the phone number written on the board in his classroom. Angry, he calls Simon, who is already waiting outside the school. Will refuses to continue working with Simon because of the privacy invasion, but Simon brushes off his concerns and reminds him of their deal. Later, Will meets a man who hands him another envelope before disappearing. Inside, Will finds documents accusing his target of being a registered offender. When he gets home, Will gets another call from Simon, who orders him to kill his target by pushing him off a bridge on his usual route. Will tries to refuse, but Simon ignores him and hangs up. The next morning, Laura senses something is wrong but feels guilty. Will assures her that everything is fine before heading to work. He discovers slashed tires on his car outside, prompting him to heed Simon's advice and board the bus. When the bus arrives at the overpass, Will decides not to get off and continues on to work. After school, Simon tracks him down, reminding him of their agreement. But Will refuses to do any more of Simon's tasks, insisting that he's not a killer. He tells Simon to leave him alone before walking away. That evening, while Will and Laura are out for dinner, Simon unexpectedly shows up, pretending to be an old co-worker of Will's. Despite Simon's attempt to join them, Will insists he leave. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Will and Laura head home. There, Will notices the magnets on the fridge now spell out choose and rearrange it. He searches the apartment but doesn't find anything unusual. Pretending to go to his car, Will calls the number Simon gave him. He reaches a funeral home and asks them to tell Simon to leave his family alone. When Will returns home, he finds the door slightly open, and Laura mistakenly thinks he has been inside all along. The magnets again spell out the word choose on the fridge. The next morning, Will gets off the bus at the overpass and sees his target getting off another bus. Will tries to talk to the man, but the man, already nervous, reacts aggressively and accidentally falls over the edge to his death. Shocked, Will quickly leaves the scene and gets on the next bus. Meanwhile, Laura looks through Will's car and finds her necklace in the glove compartment. Simon then calls Will, expressing gratitude for his completion of the task and informing him that their agreement is now complete. At school, Will sees two students fighting and ends up hitting one of them, which leads to a 3-week suspension. When he gets home, Laura confronts him about the necklace, but Will refuses to explain. Upset, Laura leaves for her rehearsal. Not long after, 2 detectives arrive at Will's door and arrest him for murder. During questioning, Will denies any involvement in the crime. The detectives present him with surveillance footage from the overpass, revealing the arrival of Will and the victim, Alan Marsh, at the location. However, they reveal that someone disabled the camera that could have captured the confrontation. They also show him a video from Alan's phone that shows Will following Alan's family at the zoo. Will finds out that Alan was an investigative journalist. Seeing no clear path out, Will requests a lawyer, but the lieutenant declines, citing the lack of formal charges against Will. The lieutenant then asks Will a series of strange questions, ending with a question about the hungry rabbit. After Will answers, the lieutenant lets him go, warning him to leave the city before Simon comes after him. After her rehearsal, Laura tries calling Will, but the police answer his phone. Will rushes to a payphone and leaves a message with Trudy for Laura, saying he hopes to meet her after her rehearsal the next day. He then goes to his high school to learn more about Alan and discovers the details of Alan's wake. The following day, Will sneaks into Laura's rehearsal venue and manages to get her attention. He explains the entire situation, and Laura, realizing how serious it is, offers him money and a gun she had bought earlier. When they see the police arriving at the rehearsal, Will quickly makes his escape. At Alan's wake, Will manages to steal Alan's ID. From Alan's acquaintances, he learns that Alan had been investigating Simon's vigilante group, which explains why Simon wanted Alan dead. Meanwhile, a woman at the wake notices Will and makes a call. Soon, 2 of Simon's men arrive. Will sees them and begins to run away. One man chases him while the other heads to Simon's car. Will escapes by climbing over the edge onto the highway before Simon and his men can catch him. As he climbs down, he accidentally drops his phone. One of Simon's men tries to follow but gets hit and dragged by a car. As Laura leaves her building, a detective approaches her, claiming to have information that could prove Will's innocence. Laura gets into the car but soon realizes the men are imposters. When the car stops, she uses her pepper spray on them and escapes. Meanwhile, Will breaks into Alan's workplace, finds his desk, and steals some documents before quickly leaving. On the street, he spots a police car and quickly hides in a nearby hotel, where he steals a coat and a valet ticket. He retrieves the car and drives to an alley, where he checks the documents and finds receipts from a gas station that Alan frequently visited. Will goes to the gas station, pays the attendant for information, and learns about a nearby storage unit. He crashes into the unit, gains entry, and finds a boat inside. As he searches the unit, a newspaper vendor arrives at the gas station, showing papers with Will's photo on the front page as a wanted man. On the boat, Will finds a box and forces it open. As he leaves, he sees the police arriving and quickly speeds away. He leads them on a high-speed chase through the city, trying to lose them at a train crossing. When that doesn't work, he faces the police directly, causing a collision. Will manages to escape again, despite the officer's injuries. He finds an alley and plays a DVD from the lockbox, which reveals an interview Alan conducted with a man from the beginning of the movie, discussing the vigilante group. The footage also shows Simon meeting with Will's friend, Jimmy. Will rushes to Jimmy's house, bursts in with a gun, and confronts him. Jimmy admits that he joined the organization after his brother died and confesses that he asked the lieutenant to release Will. Will demands to know Simon's real identity, pressing the gun to Jimmy's head. As Will leaves the scene, he doesn't realize someone is following him. He stops when a man confronts him with a gun, accusing Will of being a registered offender. Will manages to overpower the scared man and lets him go. He then contacts Simon, who reveals his real name as Eugene Cook, a businessman. Will sends Simon a video of the interview and demands the tapes from the overpass, which would prove his innocence in Alan's death. Simon agrees to trade at the Superdome during a monster truck rally. Meanwhile, Jimmy pretends to visit Trudy to help find Laura, but instead, he tracks down Laura's location, leading to a sudden influx of men into the room. At the show, Simon gets a call from Will with directions on where to meet. When they finally meet face to face, Simon shows Will a photo of Laura bound and gagged and tells him to follow. As they enter an abandoned mall, Will discovers Jimmy and other men holding Laura captive. Simon takes the tapes from Will and orders his men to kill both Will and Laura. Will calls Simon a depraved man, causing Simon to go on an angry rant. In the chaos, Jimmy shoots one of the men near Laura, and Will tackles another over the escalators. A gunfight breaks out between Jimmy and Simon as Jimmy reveals he didn't join the group to kill innocent people. Simon shoots Jimmy fatally in the chest. Simon grabs Laura as she tries to escape. Simon and Will then engage in a fierce fight, resulting in both of them falling over the escalator. Simon recovers and is about to shoot Will, but Laura intervenes, shooting Simon dead without a second thought. Shortly after, the lieutenant arrives and informs Will and Laura to leave. He plans to cover for them, revealing that Jimmy and Simon have killed each other, leaving no trace. He offers Will a position in their organization, but Will declines. They leave together. Later, the public learns the truth about Will's confrontation with Alan, clearing him of all charges. Will goes to Alan's former workplace to give a disc to a reporter to continue with Alan's research and bring down the group. Will is however shocked to learn that the man is also part of the group. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.